every dimension you look at, it acts the same on the other dimension. It takes, the first dimension, you have to build the second dimension with that, and the second dimension casts a one-dimensional shadow. Second dimension, you have to build the third dimension with that. Third dimension casts a second dimensional shadow. Third dimension, to get time, you have to have volume, which is what we're living in here, because you can't have time without movement.
A Codega is a guide and a storyteller, escorting you through the night, lighting the way, warding off thieves, ghosts, demons, and other oddities. Along the journey, his companions would often share with him the most curious of stories that he'd record in his Codex. Perhaps you just might find yourself traveling with a Codega and sharing one of yours. Click that like.
Yeah!
If you're new here, subscribe and have the bell hit for notifications to stay up to date on all of the new content. In the year 2019, the world witnessed something unprecedented. The first ever image of a black hole captured by the Event Horizon Telescope. It was a staggering feat of science, but for some, it was more than that. It was the doorway to the unknown. Black holes have always been a source of fascination and fear. These celestial phenomena are points in space where gravity is so intense that nothing, not even light, can escape. Scientists describe them as regions where the laws of physics break down. But others wonder, what if black holes are more than cosmic anomalies? Take the story of astronaut Richard Malloy, a name known only in the whispers of classified circles. The legend goes that during the early 2000s experiment to study black hole simulations using advanced AI, Malloy began experiencing vivid hallucinations. He claimed to see people, shadowy figures with no discernible features, watching him during his training sessions. After months of these occurrences, Malloy disappeared, leaving behind cryptic journal entries suggesting he believed black holes were not just voids, but gateways to other dimensions. While the story remains unconfirmed, it raises questions about what lies beyond the event horizon. Are black holes merely destructive forces, or could they be pathways to realms of high strangeness, where the rules of our universe no longer apply? Welcome back, Seekers of the Strange, to another mind-expanding episode of Codega's Codex of Curiosities. I'm Rai, your Codega, here to light the way through the vast mysteries of existence. Tonight, we're diving into a topic that blurs the line between science and the supernatural: black holes. These cosmic entities have captured the imagination of scientists and mystics alike, but what if they're more than we think? Could black holes be the ultimate portals? Gateways to other dimensions, realms of consciousness, or even alternate versions of ourselves? My guest tonight has spent a lifetime experiencing high strangeness, and their unique insights to black holes might change the way we see the universe. Get ready for a conversation that takes us beyond the edge of understanding. Before we venture into the unknown, don't forget to check out the Codega's Codex of Curiosities merchandise store. From celestial-themed designs to cryptid-inspired apparel, there's something for every explorer of the unexplained. And, your support keeps the show growing and alive and keeps the curiosity thriving. All right, so visit us today, grab your gear, and let's get to the journey of the edges of the universe. And with that, we're going to bring on Chris Neal. So, Chris, welcome to Codex of Curiosities.
Hi, Roy.
Hello, Chris. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. It's a beautiful rainy night here, and looking forward to talking to you.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, it's so you reached out to me. You had some experiences, some high strange experiences, but that's not the reason why you wanted to reach out, was it? It was you had this epiphany, we'd say. This, I don't want to say epiphany, but you have this idea, this knowledge, this insight into black holes.
So, epiphany is actually a great word for it. So, yeah, I reached out to you. I saw the post you made, and I wanted to I wanted to talk to you about some of the other things that I've experienced, but the I think the most important thing is this, as you said, epiphany on black holes.
Awesome.
And
Awesome. I think that's great, Chris. Now, just if you want to just do a quick little introduction about yourself, that would be fantastic. Tell us where you're from if you want to, and if you're doing anything else, anything special as well.
yeah, my name's Chris. I'm I'm not anybody special. I you know right now I'm just a family man, kind of a homestead farmer. Um, I have a wife, 5 kids. I live a pretty simple life. Um,
Well,
Granted, I have experienced a lot of things, but I still consider all the things that I've experienced in the great scheme of things pretty simple.
that is awesome. I like that, but I wouldn't say you're just being a homesteader is not just a simple life. I think that's an amazing undertaking that really grows a person, and it really enriches you and your family. And I think that's amazing.
It does. It gives a purpose to life. It gives you something to look forward to, something to work toward, and a way to raise your family in a way that they can appreciate what's around us in this world.
I could not agree more with you on that one. I think it's very good, you know, to understand where everything comes from and how to find it and to grow it yourself, and how to be self-reliant and self-sufficient. I think is something that has been lost. We kind of lost that, like we're out of step with it, like there's this cycle, and we've lost the connection back to how we grow our food, how we create our food, how we build things. We just run to the grocery store and grab something, but we have no idea where it comes from. We have no idea how it got there, what kind of process it went through. But you're taking it back to the basics almost, and I think I think that is school unto itself.
Yeah, I agree. And what better way to teach your children than show them how things really are?
I I,
Um,
I agree.
so yeah, like I said, there's not too much special about me. But reaching out to this channel, I wanted to be able to talk about some of the high strangeness things. I see you've had a lot of a lot of people on that are very well versed in these things. Some of them I was even watching earlier that have published books about it. Now I'm not there.
That and
I'm just
that's okay. I'm not there either. I have not published a book. I'm just a guy who sits down and listens to people's experiences or their research, or and some of them have written books, but there's others who haven't. And we all have to start somewhere, right? So before
oh yeah,
anybody has written a book, they're sitting down and talking to someone just like you are to me.
yeah, they have a story to tell.
Exactly.
Um, and I hope the story I have to tell is worth people hearing.
I
Um,
I'm ready to hear. So let's begin on how this all started for you.
well, like I said, from a young age, I've experienced different things. I can, I mean, at 10 years old, I got a camera for Christmas, I believe, and love that thing. I love taking pictures. 10 years old, would have been, mid 90s. I was 1998. It was still a film camera. And before that, I was always interested in the stars. My dad, he taught me constellations. He'd point things out to me. He was always teaching me to look up at the sky and to know the stars around us. And that gave me a big interest in the sky from a young age. Um, and I remember one day I was out on the farm and I saw something flying across the sky that should not have been there. Um, I have the photographs somewhere. I don't know where they are now, but I took a few pictures of it, and I could see them, and you can even see them on the pictures. I might be able to get those to you at some point if I can pull them out and
that would
find
be
them.
cool if you could find them. If you can't, I believe that you've taken some pictures of some crazy things in the sky.
Well, keep in mind too that it was on a 35 millimeter camera taken by a 10-year old, so definitely not the best pictures in the world, but you can see what I saw, multiple like saucer and orb looking solid objects in the sky that were just flying around there.
Wow.
Um, and also during that time, I was in the gifted program. Um, what what's come out now, as I've seen people talking about the GATE program, which is what I was in,
Okay.
and some of the experience I had with that. Um, I didn't think it was anything um, unusual at the time, but I do know one of the games that we would play was a game with guessing numbers. So we'd type out a long form number on a calculator, and against another person, we'd guess the numbers and what place number that was in. I was really good at that,
Wow.
and I got to the point to where I could guess almost the entire string of numbers. And the last time I played that game, I believe it was in about fourth grade, fifth maybe. Yeah, fifth grade is what it was because I remember the teacher. Um, but played the game, but afterwards, excruciating headaches. And I was telling my grandmother about it when I was going to her place for the weekend to visit. And I also told her about the people I would hear and kind of visualize that were talking to me, that were helping me get the numbers and things. And all of a sudden, I'd had a history of migraines, even from a young age, and it felt like a knife stabbing into my head. Um, I mean, I broke down crying from the pain, and it was just sharp and quick, and that was it. Um, but I remember how bad that pain was, and I never played that game again because I felt like it kind of took its toll on my mind there. Um, yeah, I mean, little things like that. And I believe that I've had some encounters. Now, I don't have anything to back this up, but I do remember one night, probably about the same age, lying in my bed, and I felt something in the room with me. Um, so yeah, about fourth or fifth grade then, but I felt something in the room with me, and I look over, and in the darkness, I see what I still can only describe as the masks on theaters, the comedy and tragedy masks.
Yes, correct.
It looked like that staring at me.
Okay.
It, I mean, 10, 9, 10, 11 years old, whatever I was at the time, terrified me.
Of course.
So, um, I hid under my blankets and I prayed for, uh, for the Lord to take that away, whatever it was. Um, and when I finally looked out, it was gone. And, of course you could attribute it to a child's overactive imagination, but, it, it was too real. I could see them. So yeah, I've had a lot of experiences with, I
With
guess, what some people would consider the supernatural.
all right,
Um,
and so is that what kind of and that's really interesting with the gifted program. You know, like I've talked to people before with the within the gifted program, and they've talked about many things further on within the gifted program as well. Like being taken away on special field trips, and into special like to deal with the military of sorts, or not military, but as in like uh,
NASA.
yeah, something like that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we one of the field trips we went on, we it was a mission to Mars field trip, and we I forget where we went. Um, uh, I mean, I'm 36 years old now,
Yeah.
so it's kind of hard to remember back in elementary school. But I remember it was really cool because something that clearly piques my interest because it has to deal with space.
Yeah.
And we did a mission to Mars trip to where we had to land um, a like our ship on Mars.
Hmm.
Now, of course, it was all just in this thing that they had set up for us, but it was cool. But yeah, we like every week for gifted, we would go to another school to
Okay.
do our classes. Um, I mean, I remember in third grade, I built my first website
Wow.
because yeah, the gifted had us doing that. But really, I mean, I it kind of gifted classes kind of annoyed me because I felt like besides some of the things that piqued my interest, like there was a book we read, and now looking back on it, um, a lot of it had to do with extraterrestrial things or extraterrestrial adjacent things that they would teach us. But one of the books we read, it was called The Green Book, and I don't know if you've heard of this book before.
I have not.
Um, so it's about if I can remember right, don't um, I may get some of these details wrong, but it's about Earth dying and having to set up a colony on another planet.
Okay.
Um, and the main character is a girl, and I guess she's writing in her green book. I can't remember all the details. In fact, a lot of the stuff from back then, it could be time, but a lot of things from back then are pretty fuzzy. Um,
I understand.
but I remember that specifically. Um, I've been looking for that book too. I'd like for my kids to read it. It was interesting.
It actually sounds interesting. I've made a mental note of it myself now, and I'm like, okay, I want to look up that book, you know, the Green Book. So that's definitely something I will look into as well. And then so before we move on to where you know like this into the black hole, we'll say, what's in this gifted program, were you ever told to like you know you had to visualize the numbers and guess play these number games, right? Was there any other times where you had to visualize other locations and to know other places? Was that ever brought up as well?
Not you mean like remote viewing?
Yes, exactly.
Um, not that not that I can remember, but I do know it used to irritate my mom a lot because around the time that I got into the gifted program, I became like very interested in like psychic phenomena, including um, telekinesis, remote viewing, and all that stuff. And I mean, I was 8, 9, 10 years old,
Yeah.
going to Books a Million and getting books on this to learn more. Um, so I don't know why that curiosity peaked during that
Hmm.
time, but yeah, I do remember doing that, and I remember with my friends and um, at the regular school when I was in the regular classes, um, I'd kind of show off a little bit with card tricks, like okay, hold that card, I can tell you what color it is, or hold that card, I can tell you what suit it is, and things like that. And I mean, I wasn't perfect, but I mean, 8 out of 10 times I was getting that. maybe not 8 out of 10, but it was a lot.
That's that's impressive though, nonetheless. Even 7 out of 10 is still above average. Like you should be batting maybe. Well, if it's color, you should be batting 50%. But if you're sitting 7 or 8, that's doing well.
Yeah, and I would guess suits, I would guess numbers, um, and I don't know how I did it. I was like, oh, even deep down, I was like, okay, this is just I'm just lucky guessing,
Yeah.
but um, so yeah, I can't remember them trying to encourage anything like remote viewing, but I do know that I started to be really interested in that kind of thing during that time. Still
Interesting.
there?
Really. Yeah. Yeah. I
Okay,
am. Sorry. Yeah.
good deal.
It's Yeah. That's really interesting. So then let's jump forward now. Now let's move a lot further forward. This how did this so you said you like taking pictures of space. You said you like your father was saying you should know the constellations. How did this fascination with black holes, or where did this intrigue start?
So, I mean, naturally, I like astronomy. Um, it's it's always, I mean, the stars captivate us. Uh, Anybody who can't look up on a clear night and just be mesmerized by the things that they see, I mean, it would honestly be sad to not appreciate something like that. But the black hole thing, the the epiphany came. Well, let's uh let's back up just a little bit.
For sure.
So, um, I a few years ago, I started getting back into my Christian roots.
Hmm.
Um, and by doing that, I've had, you know, I mean, a lot of the times it feels pretty one sided, but I mean, I talk with the Lord like I would be talking with you. Now, I can't. Uh, he doesn't. He doesn't say words back to me. Um, but, sometimes there's these feelings,
Yeah.
and I I mean, like at one point, I've been really hard on my body through my life, and I mean, he's answered prayers in ways that have made me be able to work and appreciate my wife and kids better. I had really bad pain in my shoulders and joints and things from arthritis from beating up my body. And one night after a hard night of work, I just everything was aching. I couldn't sleep, and I said, Lord, just please, just take this off of me enough to get me through tomorrow because I knew it was going to be a hard day the next day. And that was 2 years ago, maybe. And I've not had any of that pain since. So he he listens. Um,
Wow.
and I don't know if this is the kind of topic you want to get into. And
No, that's okay.
it's
No, I think it's really interesting. Yes.
well, it sounds like it's not related at all. I realize that it sounds like I'm jumping around to something completely unrelated, but maybe it's just my mind making the connections. But the black hole thing um, is something that was so mundane at like when the epiphany came over on me, and our it's going to sound comical, but our bathtub drain was clogged, and
Okay.
yeah, I know, and that's a heck of a way to start it, isn't it?
Yep.
Um, so I was unclogging the bathtub drain, and I got it unclogged, and as I'm watching, or as I was making sure the water was flowing, I had I had that strong voice tell me to look, to watch. And as I was watching, I realized something. Um, and it opened up my mind to our our perception of things. So I noticed at the drain You know, around the drain is the shadow, right?
Hmm.
From where water's blocking the light. But inside of the drain, there's the light, and going down the drain, going down into the pipes. And I realized what I was witnessing was a a 2D representation of a black hole.
Okay.
What I was seeing there was, if I was a two-dimensional being,
Hmm.
I'd be standing on the outside of this thing, looking at this mass of just black shadow that looks like it's pulling everything into it, and thinking, "Wow, this thing must be immensely dense. This thing must be just so powerful. The gravitational force of this thing just must be insane." While as a three-dimensional being, I'm looking above it, and I see that that black is just a shadow. It's nothing. Um,
Hmm.
and
Okay.
then from there, is this making any sense to you?
A little bit. Yep. Yeah. You keep going.
Um,
You're explaining it well.
yeah. Okay. Good. I'm trying to. Like I said, it was it was just the simplest thing, but it was just a click in my head that I I realized what we are looking at when we see a black hole. So if you think about it, anything in a dimension above it casts a shadow in that dimension. So
Okay.
if you have a two-dimensional object, it casts a one-dimensional shadow.
Yeah.
A
Correct.
three-dimensional object casts a two-dimensional shadow. So a fourth dimensional object would obviously cast a three-dimensional shadow. And the way the things on the dimension of the shadow are going to observe it as if it's something in their dimension,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
So as three-dimensional beings, we're looking at this black hole, and we're seeing this massive black emptiness with a light around it. And if you look at pictures of the black hole, I mean, obviously they're two-dimensional photos, but if you look at the pictures of the black hole, you're seeing, you know, the shadow and then the event horizon, and it's oh no, I'm trying to explain this in the easiest way possible, but we're seeing this as a three-dimensional object, as a mass, when actually it's not a mass. It's nothing. It's just a shadow being cast down from a dimension above us.
Okay.
So, and the way a good way to describe what I'm talking about here is, we can move. If you think about movement over dimensional planes, one dimension, it's back and forth. It's a line.
Yeah.
Two two dimensions would be, you're moving along the floor. Three dimensions, you're moving along the floor, but you can go up. Now, the fourth dimension, it's proposed that the fourth dimension is time, which is
Correct.
an intangible thing. But what what came to me is that time isn't an intangible thing, and time isn't the fourth dimension. Just as the third dimension isn't um, isn't volume. It's just, we can move through volume. Fourth dimension would be we can move through time. The reason that we see time on a scale from start to finish is because we're limited by our dimensional perception of it.
Correct. Correct.
So, and then that started opening up more in my mind about it. It started to make sense on a religious scale. How how we can be or how we can take the Bible, where God is omnipresent, you know, uh, a day is as 1,000 years. And, we're limited by language in this.
Agreed. Agreed.
Um, so all the texts that we read, we're limited by the language of our third dimensional observance of these things. So, the way that we would move from across a room, from a chair to a couch or into another room, um, on a fourth dimensional plane, time would be as easy to move through as, you know, the as a room. So it's time is as 1,000 days, or I mean, a day is as 1,000 years because it doesn't matter. It's just like, you know, one step is as a mile to us. We can move there. Now, a two-dimensional being would not understand that. He would think that, oh, we can pop in and out at will, but
Yes.
really we're just moving outside of their field of perception, just
Correct.
like just like a fourth dimensional being would be able to move around in time. Um, yeah,
No,
I
I
don't know.
really,
Does that make sense?
it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because your explanation of two dimensional, of course, is just forward and backwards kind of thing, and sideways. That's what they're moving. But and for us to move up, let's say we're in their plane, but we move up and then we move over and we drop back down. It's like, whoa, that was magic. How did that just happen? How did that appear? And
Exactly.
for us it could be almost instantaneously, but for them to get over to that place, it could be like a day. We'll just say, just throw that out there. It could be 24 hours, and for us it's move up and over and back down. That could be 5 minutes, and so it's because we're not
Right.
really we're not controlling the time just yet, but it's just that's what it appears to be. And kind of like the movie Time Traveler's Wife, where he keeps reappearing in certain areas and certain times where she's moving along a linear path, but he is now accessed the time, the timeline, and has now coming in at different areas and still remaining the same age, whereas she is aging.
Right. Yeah, and I didn't even think about that. My wife and I watched that movie together a long time ago. She loved it because it was a romantic movie.
Of course, of
Um,
course.
I mean, it was a pretty good movie. But yeah, I mean, but yet again, we're limited by language there. You say timeline. And it's
Yeah,
not a timeline, it's a
of
time
course.
space.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, it's, I mean, thing is, I mean, if that's the case, it gets into all kinds of crazy things that can explain a lot of things that, you know, people would say in the Bible. Like, and we, we look at it as, oh, well, that's an exaggeration. That's biblical text. None of this is possible with our understanding of physics. But if we look at this, and it goes beyond the whole black hole thing. The black
yeah.
hole thing was just the opening towards understanding what we were looking at. So the black hole thing, it's I mean, that really gets to be something that's just on the back burner because all it does is show us that there's a shadow being cast of something a dimension higher than us. So it shows that there is a real and tangible fourth dimension.
I like that. So what you're saying is like these black holes are the shadows of something that is able to pass over in cross over into these other dimensions. It's
Yeah,
kind of like these access points of
yeah,
sorts.
it's like a peephole or looking at a photograph or a TV screen or something like
Hmm.
that. Which, in that case, going back to religion, if you're okay with that,
Yeah, yeah, of course.
um, you know, if you believe in the Bible about after the end of this, um, we go to heaven and we get our perfect bodies. You know, um, that's that doesn't mean, oh, hey, I'm going to be jacked and like slim and everything. I don't think I think that's way out of the realm of possibility for me. Um, but you know, the perfect body doesn't mean that you're getting a new, just beautiful body or anything. It means you're going back to your soul is going back to what your body actually is. So looking at us, if you look at it from even the physics that we understand, it's kind of lonely because we they've proven that we can't touch each other.
Mm.
Like our atoms repel against the other person's atoms. It's just an illusion of feeling, of touch, of basically we've grown up in, and this might go into some of the simulation theory too, if you want to go into something
Of
like
course.
that.
Yeah.
Um, but if you dive into this and start looking at it, you realize I can't, like, this pipe that I'm holding right here. I'm not touching this. Um, it's I have the illusion that I'm touching it. I think that I'm touching this cup right here, and but really none of it's real. It's all a projection of our fourth dimensional perfect selves or perfect objects, and so our perfect body would be our soul leaving this projection
Yeah.
that we're living out here and moving back into where we are in the fourth dimension, which would be, you know, I mean, it's I don't know. There's a lot of parables in the Bible too, obviously in the New Testament, but
Yeah.
and it's not just Christ who speaks the parables. I mean, we have but one of the big ones is the as above, so below,
That's exactly what
and
I
that
was thinking. Yeah.
yeah, that it clicked with me because then I was like, as above, so below. Okay, we're looking at um, what's higher is doing the same thing below. So that's how I really got to the dimensional scaling, shadows, and things like that. And every dimension you look at, it acts the same on the other dimension. It takes, you know, the first dimension, you have to build the second dimension with that, and the second dimension casts a one dimensional shadow. Second dimension, you have to build the third dimension with that. Third dimension casts a second dimensional shadow. Third dimension, you know, to get time, you have to have volume, which is what we're living in here, because you can't have time without movement. So that's why we can exist in this third dimension, is because this is the only way that we can move around and experience a fraction of what the fourth dimension is and interact with things. So, but to build the fourth dimension, you have to have the third dimension, and the fourth dimension will cast its shadow down on the third.
Interesting. Now,
Um,
like, so when we're going into that, I just have a question here. So, something that has come up with a friend of mine from the Awaken podcast, Brad. He talks about plasma portals, and I don't know if you have any idea about plasma portals. Now, would they be some sort of access points from the fourth dimension into the third dimension? Is that a possibility? In
it,
essence, kind of like a black hole of sorts, but almost a reverse black hole.
well, I mean, I can't speak on that. I'm not educated. I mean, I do research. I mean, I have a high school education,
Yeah.
and
I
so
I feel that is okay. In my opinion, we talked earlier about this, that I feel that education is what you're learning in education, and no offense to people who've gone to university and everything, it's you're learning what someone else learned, and they're telling you their thoughts. And, like, don't get me wrong, mathematics and physics are kind of set in stone, but when you're learning
well, are
others.
they?
Oh yeah, good points. Yes. So when I guess, yeah. So it's kind of like we're being taught a way to think inside a box. We're being taught a
Right.
way to think inside a cube, and sometimes, it's good. when you live inside the cube, but when you want to break free or you want to expand or you want to, move forward, sometimes, that education holds you back. It's a bit of a ball and chain.
It is. I mean, it opens up a lot of opportunities here in the world. Um, Sorry about that. I had to fix my earbud.
Not a problem.
Um, but it opens up a lot of opportunities here in the world. But and the commitment it takes to get an education like that, I mean, it's commendable.
Yeah. Yes, it is. And again, it's not. I'm not knocking anybody who's ever done it or tried it. It's, but for it's for some, and it's not for others.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I don't know anything about the plasma portals,
Okay.
um, but I mean, if they do work similar, then would the plasma portals take you to like another place in this dimension, or to a higher, or do they bridge time, or what?
I personally think that they. So this is my own theory. I believe they bridge another dimension within this one. And kind of like how we were talking earlier, like if you step out, if you step through one of these portals, I think time becomes different. Whereas one day, like 1,000 days here could be 5 days there, and when you come back, because there has been.
So, so it's a fold.
Yes, yes.
So it'd be like,
Yeah, I think that's closer to possibly what it could be, a fold in space. But when you're in the fold, it's not a two-dimensional fold. It's possibly a three-dimensional fold into a different area, because you're living another a time and space in there, because there's been stories, and I'm getting a little off topic here, but there's been stories where people have witnessed a cryptid, a dogman cryptid come through this
right.
portal, and they've seen it, and then it exits, and then they see years and years and years later the exact same cryptid that they've seen, maybe 15 years ago, and it didn't look. It looks like nothing has changed. It comes through this portal. So the theory is possibly that it walks through to this one point, then comes back. It could be just days for it, and it comes back into our realm. You know, 15 years later, and for
Right.
for this creature it was 3-4 days. So yeah, I like that it could actually be a fold. It could be like a pencil hole through this all, kind of like
Or
a.
not even a pencil. Say you have a piece of paper. You make a
Yeah.
dot on one side of the paper, a dot on the other. If you want to connect the two, fold the paper over, and now
Yes.
they're touching. And I mean, just scale that up to a three-dimensional, uh, well, a three-dimensional way, and something that would be able to go through that. Doesn't even have to be a fourth dimensional being at that point. It's because those dots on the paper are still, two-dimensional things. Um, but they can touch in, along our three-dimensional plane at that point. So it could be a third dimensional being that is touching along the fourth dimensional plane because of a fold there.
or
So
or
yeah, I
or,
mean,
or could it even be, sorry, you said something about it could be, it's a two-dimensional, that plane that folding over could be two-dimensional. Could they be actually moving one dimension down, folding that paper over and coming back through on that side? It's kind of like
well,
that.
it well that begs to ask, in that case, just like who made the dots on the paper,
Mm,
who made who made the creature,
yeah, yeah,
so that those dots on the paper are still two-dimensional things.
yeah.
We, as a three-dimensional being, would just be folding that over, so we're forcing our dimension on those two-dimensional things.
Yeah.
So would a fourth dimensional being be forcing um, forcing that third dimensional being into a that fold? I don't know how better to put that. I'm probably wording this in a poor way.
No, no, you're wording it fine. You're wording it fine. It's a very interesting discussion. Very
It
interesting discussion.
it messes with your head a bit.
It
This
you
this
have
isn't weed, by the way. This is tobacco.
not a problem. Not a problem. yeah, you have no idea how much this messes with our heads. You know, there's so many things out there that perhaps people don't like their head being messed with, and they just choose to ignore, and they choose to not see, or choose not to look into things. And you know, I've said that we are, like, deep down, we are explorers, right? We want to explore and find new discoveries, but
Yeah,
I find we're very placated recently. You know, like in this past, we'll say two last two generations, or even three generations. We've kind of just all settled down, and we're like, yep, that's it, no more. But
we've
there's
gotten
so
comfortable.
Yes, yes, but there's so
Yeah.
much more out there. It doesn't necessarily we have to be explorers of land. Jump on a boat and go find a new piece of land. We can be explorers of other realms. We can be explorers of new knowledge, of hidden knowledge, of things that are just being kept from us. Because I really believe there's a lot of information that is being kept from us. That it's maybe just to keep us placated. Yeah,
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, think about it. If I'm right about this, if this epiphany that came on to me is right,
yeah,
then and if you know a government power or whoever's pulling the strings
hmm,
already knows about it, why would they want people to know about this? Because at that point, it just shows that what we consider reality is not, and it goes past the whole simulation theory. Because simulation theory, yeah, there's mathematicians and such say that it looks like everything in our reality has been written in code.
yes,
Um,
yes,
but with with what I'm proposing here, my little bathtub hypothesis, I guess you'd call it. Um, it's not it's not necessarily code as we understand it, and it not only proves like that none of this is real. It still matters clearly because we're like these projections are a host for our soul.
yeah,
Um, and I mean, no matter what belief you have, I mean, I, I mean, even as an atheist, I would think that you still realize there's something analogous to the divine spirit in people. Like there's something that sets us apart, but that shows that hey, there's like this whole hypothesis shows that hey, there's something major beyond this, and we're getting glimpses of it through space. It shows that none of this is real. None of this, why do a 9 to 5 job if this truly is just temporary? Why be controlled by all these laws of man and laws of the world if all of this is temporary and it doesn't matter if we're actually higher beings? What are we actually capable of? And of course, no, the it's a whole grasshopper in the ant situation. Um,
yes, yes.
you see the when the common man understands the power that he has, then he'll throw off the shackles of tyranny and live for live for the common good. Hopefully, I like to think that most people are good,
I do too.
but this even goes back. If I mean, it has relevance to the stories, the old religious stories. It has relevance to the sun standing still in the sky. I mean, something that could manipulate time can do something like that. It has
True.
a lot of the old stories. The way that they describe things can be described at, or can be looked at in this new way and say, oh, they weren't just making stuff up. Like these things are actually, um, these are interactions with our a higher being. Like these are real. And once you start looking at those stories as being scientifically proven based on a new theory
Hmm.
and being accurate, then that I mean it throws everything that we understand in disarray.
Yes, it does. Everything it throws in disarray, and I feel then sometimes you when you do that, there's people who just don't want to accept that though. They're like they pull on. We're talking about the Matrix, living in a Matrix. You know, there's those Agent Smiths, where people actually become their own Agent Smith, and they just they start fighting against it to keep the things the way they are, the status quo.
Yeah, people don't like change.
Yeah.
Um, but as you said, where humanity is um, itself is a natural explorer, um, and a lot of people still have that pioneer spirit in them, but it's sleeping. That's
Mm.
why people are, and the whole bread and circus thing. You keep
Yes.
them entertained, you keep them fed, and they're not going to ask questions.
Yeah.
But occasionally, you have something that you know just clicks in somebody's head from something mundane, like cleaning a bathtub drain.
E-
um,
exactly. It's something mundane can lead you to these epiphanies. It's kind of like it's like
Isaac
many
Newton and
many
the
things.
apple.
How did you read my mind on that one? That's
Uh,
exactly what I was thinking.
uh, I I don't know, a coincidence.
Yeah, it could be. That's
I
interesting.
mean, it's a
I
it's a
guess it's
pretty
a
common trope.
common analogy. Yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. Uh, or you can accept it and say, yeah, I did read your mind.
yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm not. I've always felt like anything like that could be coincidence.
Fair
Um,
enough. Fair
I'm
enough.
I'm self doubting. So
And hey, I understand that. I completely understand that. Now, I feel we've kind of covered this all, but I want to ask you a question. What do you think space is then? If we're able to see this three-dimensional shadow cast from the fourth dimension, which is a possibility, very much so, then what is space then to us?
I I don't know.
Okay.
That's the thing. I mean, I've grown up
Yeah.
thinking space was the planets and the stars and all the other just amazing astronomical phenomena out there.
Hmm.
And I mean, this in itself has, along with other things that I've researched with how the universe is only locally exists. Um, it
Only local
makes
is that what you mean by? Sorry, if you're saying like the only universe locally exists, it's kind of like is that like the double slit theory that things are
as long as
only
it's
as long as we're
only
looking at it?
exists.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I mean, that kind of ties in with one of the things I'm talking about. This all being a projection.
Yeah.
If we're projections of our fourth dimensional selves. This world is a projection of its fourth dimensional self. Think about if you're playing a video game or watching a TV show or something. You see what's on the screen and your mind tells you, "Oh, well this other stuff is over here," but it's not there until, the camera turns back to.
I
And
understand.
what if what if that's what's going on? I bring up the universe only exists like locally, because I'd seen an article. I can't remember when. It wasn't too long ago though, about scientists saying that it seems like the universe only exists when it's being observed.
Hmm.
But I mean, you could say that about anything. But is the reason you can say that about anything because we really are just a projection? That space itself is just, you know, an illusion to keep us uh, keep us feeling like we're living in this real system.
Yeah, it's really it really challenges you when you start to hear this. Especially like that double split experiment proves that we create the reality, by like the watcher creates the reality is what
Right.
happens. And there was a movie that I watched which is kind of funny. It's called The Mandela Effect. It's not a documentary, but it's a movie, and it's based on that concept as well, that like everything is quantum. It's a quantum computing kind of thing. It's a quantum computer, but what is behind the walls on the other side of the wall, we can't see, so it doesn't exist. It doesn't have to graph it. It doesn't have to form it, because there's no sense in doing it, because it doesn't have to use like
Yes,
it doesn't have to
it's just
create.
taking up processing power.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you. That's exactly what I was trying to say. And I'm like stumbling
yeah.
over my words here. So it happens here on my end too.
No, it's. I mean, you get into these kind of things. If you're not stumbling over your words, then something's wrong with you. Um,
Yeah.
like, I mean, it's there. There are things that it feels like, especially me being a common man, shouldn't be thinking
Should you?
about.
I think we should. I think we downplay ourselves too much. I think we kind of, I believe us as people are governed, um and I'm not talking by like a government, but I believe like our abilities and our natural innate abilities are governed, and then on top of that we govern ourselves as well by like saying no, no, I should only limit my, like, we limit ourselves.
No, I
And
didn't just read your mind. Yeah,
yeah.
n-
That's
yeah,
what I believe. We limit ourselves. Not only are we being limited, but we're also limiting ourselves. And we shouldn't downplay that we are special. We shouldn't downplay that we deserve to know more. I don't want to say deserve, but we yearn to know more, and it's okay. It's okay to seek that wisdom and that knowledge. Not the forbidden fruit per se, but to discover and to behold the wonder that is this world and this universe.
yeah, absolutely. And you know, uh, the more you look into it, the more questions you have. And
Amen. Amen to that.
you know, and if I mean, I feel like my dad made it pretty important to tell me, the day that you stop seeking knowledge is the day that you truly die.
Hmm.
Um, you should always strive to learn something new. Strive to like ask questions. He always encouraged me to ask questions. He was a very intelligent man, and he encouraged me to ask him anything. So even at a young age, we're talking religion, we're talking science, we're talking politics, we're anything that I had a question about, he encouraged me to ask it so we could discuss it. So I'm really glad he instilled that in me, because I mean, without that, I wouldn't have gotten to be here talking with you.
Exactly. Exactly. I think that's a great thing to instill in our younger generations, is to be able to ask those questions, because I find a lot of time our questions get sloughed off, or we're told not to, or it's rude to ask questions. And like, granted, sorry, some questions are rude to ask, but when you're generally curious, when there's curiosity, I think we should never stifle that. We should never, snuff that out. We should keep that curiosity wondering. We should always keep it going. And same thing with imagination as well. We should nurture those parts of ourselves.
Yeah, completely agree. It's killing curiosity and imagination. That's killing the person.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, at that point, we're just husks existing as warm bodies in whatever society we've been told we have to exist in.
yeah. I couldn't agree more. Well, Chris, this has been a fantastic conversation. Is there anything else you want to share with us?
I I don't believe so. I think I at least got enough for a part one. If you might
Yeah.
want to break it up into something at some other time, I'd appreciate just talking to you again sometime.
I would too. I would too. I think it would be great. Maybe one time would be you, me, and Brad. I think Brad has got some great insights as well. Like I said, my friend from the Awaken podcast. He's a great host as well, and he has a great show. I feel that we could have a really fascinating conversation.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful.
All right, Chris. I'm gonna say thank you so much for showing up. And is there anything that you want to plug or anything like that before we head out?
No, I'm good. Like I said, I'm nothing special. play a little bit of music sometimes, but that has nothing to do with this. So
Oh,
I don't
but
feel
but
it's worth it.
but but it's always okay, man. This is, you might find that one listener who really needs to hear that music.
Well, I mean, you have my name on here, so
Fair
if
enough.
they want to check out Chris Neal music on YouTube,
There we
it's
go.
just me playing some music. I got some originals on there, but
Yeah,
like I said, you twisted my arm a little bit.
I know. I put you on the spot, but I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did. It's we're here to help each other. That's what this is about.
Well, thank you,
Well,
and thank you for the opportunity. I've really enjoyed this.
myself as well, Chris. Myself as well. All right. You have a great night.
You do the same.
All right, everyone. That was Chris, and I really love that analogy. I really loved his take on shadows. A shadow from the fourth dimension is being cast upon us, and that is what we're seeing in these black holes. Very, very interesting. And it's also interesting that he was in the gifted program. I've talked to a lot of people, not a lot, but I've talked to a handful of people in the past who've been in the gifted program as well. And it brings up a lot more. And I've got nothing against university. If you want to go to university, by all means. Myself, I went to university for a year. Wasn't for me. And I feel that some of us choose a different path. We choose this different route, and it's all right. I know everybody has their own path. Everybody has their own flair. Everybody has their own way to do things, and everything is right for you or for me. It's all right. And with that, everyone, I want to say thank you for joining us tonight. If you have any stories or any experiences that you want to share, please hit me up. Codex of Curiosities at gmail.com. And with that, everyone, I want to say good night. Keep your curiosity wandering. Keep the light lit. And always find your way home. I look forward to our next adventure together as we navigate the mysteries that lie ahead. Until our paths cross again, keep your curiosity wandering, keep the light lit, and always find your way home.